Yo, what is up everybody, it's me, That One Weep here, back with a brand new part 3, for What If Naruto was in Genshin Impact. If you guys have not seen the previous parts, there are currently 2, make sure you go up here to the top upper right hand corner and you'll find the previous parts of this series so you can catch up and be caught to this part. And, enjoy the story and not be confused. Anyway, if you guys are interested and want more of the series to come, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe button if you want, more daily content injected directly into your YouTube feed from me. But moving on with a quick little recap before we get started. Last time, Naruto battled the 2 other domains with Lisa and Amber, and now he was going to fight the next domain with Kaeya. And Kaeya and Naruto just met up at the end of the last part, and after that we'll be getting into the Storm Terror threat, as well as things with Venti and such, for any of you Genshin players out there who know the lore already. If not, I also have a link to a lore video in the first part in the comment section, which I pinned down there, so you guys can go and watch that video, which kind of explains all of Genshin lore in the game so far that you guys need to know for this What If. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's just get into the part itself. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into this part for part 3 of What If Naruto was in Genshin Impact. Kaeya, we're here, Naruto would say. Naruto and Paimon having finally made it to the 3rd of the Four Winds temples, with Kaeya standing guard. Kaeya would be sitting there flipping a coin up and down, his eye trailing it behind, as the wind would then flow through his bluish hair. He'd look up, noticing Naruto, as his focus would switch from the coin to him. Oh, Traveler, you finally made it. Alright, let's get going. Let's hurry before Lisa decides to come out here herself. That would be problematic. Actually, we just ran into Lisa, Naruto would say, saying she was at one of the other temples. I see. Well, all the more reason to get going then, isn't it? Kaeya would say, looking around, worried that Lisa might come shock him from anywhere. Alright, let's get going. Kaeya and Naruto would then enter into the domain, opening its cracked stone doors, as almost like space and time bending just with the other 2. Naruto would be sucked in along with Kaeya. As Kaeya and Naruto pulled themselves off the floor, Kaeya would say he'll never get used to that. Naruto agreeing. Paimon would be floating around looking for any treasure nearby, as Naruto would pull himself off the stone-cold floor, feeling as if though someone hasn't been in here in centuries almost. There was dust and cobwebs all around. Kaeya would tell Naruto to follow him, and don't get frostbite, he'd say, as Kaeya would then activate his elemental burst. Kaeya would activate his vision, as the light cyan tones of his cryovision would then crystallize around him. As 3 blue icy spikes would begin to spin around him, he'd tell Naruto to keep his distance, saying he'll be the vanguard. Kaeya would move forward as Paimon continues searching rooms. Eventually, Naruto would notice some boxes and point them out to Paimon, where she would then fly over there and find a chest which she would open, taking all of the treasures for herself and the Traveler. Paimon would come back saying that she scored, while Kaeya would tell him to be quiet, holding his hand up. Shh! Suddenly, the doors behind them would close, as Naruto and Kaeya turn around, but just as it happens, 2 Abyss Mages would appear, one of Pyro and one of Hydro. You take the one on the left, and I'll take the one on the right, Kaeya would say. Naruto would nod, saying, I got it. Naruto and Kaeya would then leap into action, as Kaeya would use his cryo vision abilities, freezing the Hydro Abyss Mage, as its shield which had once been protecting it was now encasing it with ice. Naruto, on the other hand, would use the power of Animo, infusing it into his Rasengan, making a Rasen Shuriken before throwing it at the Pyro Abyss Mage. The Pyro Abyss Mage would then throw its hands forward, casting its elemental abilities of the Abyss, as it creates 2 Pyro heads trying to catch the spinning blade. Naruto's Wind Rasengan style Rasen Shuriken would then slice directly through them with no effort, as it then pierces into the Abyss Mage's shield, cutting off its arm. Yeah. The Abyss Mage would grunt, as blue and black blood would begin to spurt out of its arm, spraying all over the floor. Kaeya would turn, having just finished off his Abyss Mage, telling Naruto to finish it now. Naruto would run forward for Rasengan, creating a quick shadow clone, as Paimon would cheer him on. Naruto would then thrust Rasengan directly into the shield, shattering it as he then destroys the Abyss Mage, as it goes sent sprawling into a wall before disappearing. The Abyss Mages would have then turned to ash, disappearing into blue flicks of light just like all the other monsters they had battled before had turned out. Naruto turned to Kaeya asking if that's it, as suddenly a whole band of hilichurls would come from behind, the doors opening, as almost 20 hilichurls and a mitochurl would come in. Mitochurls are black, huge, furry beasts with large horns. Compared to a hilichurl, which was about the size of a human, mitochurls were massive. Naruto hadn't fought one yet, but Kaeya had. Kaeya would tell Naruto to keep his guard up, saying that if the Abyss Mages were tactful, then mitochurls were just pure brute force. It would begin to roar as it then charges towards Naruto. Naruto would say he can fight with strong numbers too, as Naruto would then use shadow clones, creating 5 of them. This isn't exactly the numbers I'm used to, but it'll have to do. Alright clones, go take out those hilichurls. As Naruto would say this, Kaeya would already be using his elemental abilities, creating ice as he then blocks the mitochurl. The mitochurl gets slowed down by the ice as it feels its legs getting chipped away, blood now spraying out onto the cold ice. Naruto, take that opportunity. I'll take out the hilichurls with your clones, Kaeya would say. Kaeya would run forward using his sword, slashing, and then suddenly disappearing, teleporting almost behind the hilichurl, and then slashing them in the back, cutting them down one by one with his swordsmanship. Naruto would be battling at the mitochurl. The mitochurl would roar as then tackles towards Naruto. Naruto would use a transformation jutsu, turning himself into a piece of paper. As he gets hit by the mitochurl, he would just go floating away, before then re-transforming it back into himself, taking a kunai and slashing at the mitochurl, cutting it, as blood would then come oozing out of its back. The mitochurl would turn with its axe, now swinging it towards Naruto, trying to cut him in half. Naruto would seemingly get chopped in half before he poofs, having created another shadow clone. Naruto would suddenly appear from the ceiling, having used chakra to stick to the ceiling, as he then lunges down, pushing his knees off the top using gravity, as he then throws a punch, punching the mitochurl across the face, sending it sprawling to the floor. The mitochurl would curl itself back up before trying to spin with its axe, swinging towards Naruto. Naruto would dodge to the ground, creating 2 Rasengans, as he slams them into its knees, causing the mitochurl to quake and then fall. The mitochurl on the ground would be easy prey for Naruto, taking his kunai and jabbing into the back of its neck, as the mitochurl would then have been defeated, slowly disappearing into that blue light like all the other monsters. Naruto would look up towards Kaeya, who had already taken care of the other hilichurls along with his clones. Naruto would deactivate his clones, feeling the energy he'd lost, as well as the drain from having fought. Naruto would tell Kaeya he's glad this is the last one for now, saying, "That's pretty much it, right?" Kaeya would nod as the door at their far end would then open, showing the dark red crystal with Dvalin's power emanating from it, which would be powering the Storm Dragon. Kaeya and Naruto would calmly walk up to it, as the two would then take their fist and slam into the crystal, shattering it. The two would give each other a fist bump, as Kaeya says he's not half bad. Naruto would smile, saying, "You too." As Naruto looks at Kaeya, he would see Sasuke, and this would cause Naruto to remember their fight just before they had actually fought the unknown god. Naruto would turn away as Kaeya asked Naruto what's wrong. Naruto, turning back towards the empty room, would say nothing, as he remembers all of the missions that he had gone on with Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi. Naruto in his mind would be feeling guilt. The guilt that he and Sasuke had not undone the infinite Tsukuyomi jutsu before they had been teleported to this place, to the world of Teyvat. They're still trapped there, Naruto would be thinking. Everyone in the shinobi world, the entire world, was trapped inside of the divine tree. Naruto would have a sickening feeling, but he turned back as he then shakes it off, thinking he has to find Sasuke before they can even do anything. Whatever. "Let's go, Kaeya," Naruto would say, walking through the portal as he and Kaeya would then get teleported back to the surface. Lisa and Amber would be waiting for them, as now the 4 of them would head back to Mondstadt. Walking through the front gates, they head towards the Knights of Favonius' headquarters. As they enter into the door, going up to Master Jean's room before opening into her office, they would see Jean arguing with a diplomat, a Fatui diplomat to be specific. For anyone not aware of GenshinImpact's Fatui, they are the government force which work for the Tsaritsa under Snezhnaya, which is basically the equivalent of Russia and Genshin world. The Snezhnayans are also the people who are like kind of the bad guys in the game, but that's enough of breaking character for now. Anyway, back to the story. We see Jean now arguing with a Fatui diplomat, as Kaeya would be interested in what's going on. "I suggest, Master Jean, that you and the Knights of Avonia simply kill the dragon to end this quarrel, so the city is no longer in danger. You know we can't do that, Jean would say, remembering that the Storm Terror threat is actually Dvalin, one of the Four Winds. Well, you might want to consider it sooner rather than later, the Fatui would say, before she would make a sound and walk out, the masked lady walking away. Who is that? Naruto would ask. Jean would sigh, saying, one of their Fatui diplomats. The Fatui? What's that? Jean would explain to Naruto everything about the Fatui and their influence across Teyvat, as well as their work for the Tsaritsa. They can't really be trusted, though, she'd say, but we can't directly fight them since it's not like they're in war with us, and Mondstadt is a free city after all. Jean would say. Jean would then be updated from Naruto along with Kaeya, Amber, and Lisa on the situation at the temples, saying everything was ready to go. As Jean is considering the option of actually having to fight and kill Dvalin, Naruto would remember something. Oh wait, Paimon, do you still have that thing? Paimon would pick out the crystal that they had found earlier in the forest when that guy had been singing to the dragon, the weirdo. This would be when Paimon would pull out a strange crystal and Naruto would then hold it, showing it to the group. It would look red and disdained, as they would then show it over to Lisa, who would try and touch it, but her vision would suddenly spark against it, as Naruto and everyone else would agree that it must be harmful to vision users. Naruto would put the tear of Dvalin away, the gem that he and Paimon had found, as they would then begin to consider another plan. Naruto would ask them to give him some time, saying he has an idea on what they can do to save Dvalin and fix the whole Storm Terror problem. Jean would say that he has one day, as Naruto would nod, saying that he's going to go out and find it right now. Naruto and Paimon would go running off into the streets as Paimon asks if he really has a plan. Naruto would then say to Paimon, saying, we need to find that weird guy in the forest. He looked pretty weirdly dressed even for here, so if we can find him, it shouldn't be too difficult. Naruto would say this. Paimon would nod as she's looking around, saying, well, it's not like he's just going to come running up in front of... As she says this, we would then see the green-cloaked man, Bard. The green-cloaked Bard running off into the streets. Paimon would be shocked, pointing him out to Naruto, saying, Traveler, he's right there! Naruto would turn, saying, where? Use your elemental sight. Naruto would focus his chakra into his eyes as he could then follow the animo energy of this guy, seeing him glowing. Him! Alright, let's go, Paimon. Paimon and Naruto go running, as they then jump down the side of the streets, finding Venti, now in front of a group of people playing his lyre. As Naruto approaches, Venti would recognize the Traveler, pointing out that that was the guy who disrupted him in the forest earlier. Naruto would pull out Dvalin's tear, holding it up to Venti. But to both Naruto and Paimon's surprise, the tear would not be red anymore, it would be a clear blue. Even Venti would be shocked, having seen it earlier himself, now recognizing that this Traveler may have the potential to save Dvalin. Venti would tell Naruto that they can't talk here, saying to follow him to Windrise, the land of Mondstadt's hero. Venti would then run off as Naruto is thinking, Windrise? I'll have to go ask Amber where that is. Naruto would go back to the Knights of Avonia's headquarters, asking Amber where Windrise was, with her pointing it out to him on the map, telling him to go ahead, but wondering why he was going there. Wondering if he was going on a date or something, considering it was a very popular date spot in Mondstadt. Naruto had blushed, saying no, as he walks away, thinking, where'd that come from? Paimon would laugh at Naruto, looking at him all red, with Naruto turning towards her, his fist now held up, yelling for her to stop what she was doing. Paimon would, seeing this, continue to laugh, as Naruto would then punch her on the top of her head, causing a bump. Paimon would have tears in her eyes, saying, but it was funny, as Naruto then stomps away with Paimon following behind him. Naruto and Paimon would eventually make it to Windrise, as before they can talk to Venti, suddenly an Eye of the Storm would appear. For those of you who don't know, the Eye of the Storm is a giant elemental being which has the ability to create tornadoes and storms. The Eye of the Storm would be something Naruto had not seen before, so he has no idea what this is. Naruto would ask Paimon what is that, with Paimon then explaining what I just did to you, and now the Traveler. Naruto would yell at the Eye of the Storm to get down here and fight him like a real man. Needless to say, the Eye of the Storm did not fall for this bait, now casting a tornado as it blasted towards Naruto. Naruto would be tired of these games as he then throws kunai at it, piercing it into its now windy body, causing it some physical damage. Bet you don't like that, huh? Naruto, after throwing a few more kunai, would finally cause it to fall to the ground, as Naruto then creates a Wind Rasen Shuriken, now having a clear target, throwing it at it. As the wind-type attack of Anemo would hit it, it would do nothing. What? Its resistance to... Suddenly, Naruto would then be blasted away as the Eye of the Storm would rise into the air, creating a barrier surrounding him and it. Many windstorms begin to now spin within the entire tumbling chamber, and Naruto have to fly around using his glider in order to avoid getting pummeled to death by the Anemo. Naruto, finally having gotten it to the ground again, would then use a normal Rasengan, just piercing it directly into the Eye of the Storm and defeating it. It would shatter, as Venti would then come out from behind the tree saying that was rather impressive. He would stifle a laugh, seeing how Naruto would use an Anemo attack on an Anemo elemental. "What's so funny, huh?" Naruto would say. "I bet you couldn't be in it." Venti, now realizing he's not entirely wrong considering how his main abilities were all Anemo, would say nothing, as he then asked Naruto if he brought the crystal with him. Naruto would pull it out as Venti would walk forward touching it. He would have a sad look in his eyes as he begins to explain to Naruto and Paimon about what actually is happening to Dvalin. You see, the Abyss Order is trying to take advantage of Dvalin. Dvalin's currently suffering under degradation from the poisoned blood that Durin ingested into him during our fight with him 500 years ago. 500 years ago, huh? Paimon would say. "You don't look a day over maybe 12. Venti would laugh, saying, "Well, it's not like I was actually there or anything." Naruto would nod, continuing to listen to his story, as he tells Naruto the tale of Dvalin, explaining the battle between Durin and how the poison within him was now corrupting him, causing Dvalin to feel immense pain, and the people of Mondstadt and their fear of him were only making it worse. "You see, Traveler, actually, I was trying to purify Dvalin earlier, but when you showed up, it actually backfired and I got poisoned too. I'm all better by now, though," Venti would say. Venti would then tell Naruto that there's still one way they can save Dvalin, and that is to use the Holy Lyre de Himmel. "What's that?" Naruto would ask, confused by the fancy name. Venti would explain that it's a lyre from the Anemo god Barbatos, that if they can get it, they can definitely use it to heal Dvalin. With now Naruto agreeing to meet him outside the Church of Favonius, the two would enter the church before talking to a conspicuous sister standing near the end of the church, that being Gotelind. Venti would then casually walk up to the sister saying that he requires his lyre, revealing himself as his true identity as Barbatos, the Anemo Archon. Needless to say, the sister was not amused, and believes Venti is now insane. Venti sighs and then asks the Traveler to ask for it, which he decides to do. Godland then tells him they need papers signed from both Grandmaster Jean and the Seznanel and the community representative to do so, but because they don't have those papers, she will not be allowing them to take it either, unfortunately. Naruto would go back to Venti saying that she didn't let him take it either. This would be when Venti would think, well, I guess there's only one option left. Guess we'll have to steal it. Naruto would be getting memories of him stealing the Scroll of Sealing from the Third Hokage's office, thinking this is exactly like back then. Naruto, along with Venti, would then go into the chamber, with Naruto and Venti sneaking along the corridors when there were no guards, before eventually finding the lyre. Just as Naruto was about to take the lyre off of its case, suddenly an Electro-Circean mage, one of the Fatui's now warriors, would arrive, teleporting in and grabbing the lyre before disappearing. This commotion would cause the guards of the vault from the Church of Favonius to turn, seeing Venti and the Traveler, aka Naruto, stealing the lyre. Naruto and Venti would run out of the church, as Venti would use his Anemo powers using a wind current as they go flying off into Mondstadt, now teleporting towards the Angel's Share. With Venti entering and asking this red-haired man to get in their least conspicuous table. The man would be a bit confused, but he decided to agree, as Venti and Naruto would then be led upstairs, now far from view. Venti and Naruto would be watching around as two guards would enter into the now tavern, asking Master D-Luke, the man with the red hair, if any strangers wearing odd clothing had come in here. Diluc would shake his head, saying they hadn't come in here, but he'd seen which way they had gone. He'd point towards the opposite direction from where Naruto and Venti had come from, as the two guards would thank him, heading out and running off towards that direction. Diluc would come upstairs, asking the two what they were doing, with Venti explaining that they were trying to take the lyre from the church in order to fix the problem of storm terror to protect Mondstadt. Diluc would recognize this, as he decides that he'll help them out. Diluc would say if they can give him some time, later that night they'll meet up with one of his contacts. And to everyone's surprise, the contact that Diluc was speaking of would be acting Grandmaster Jean. Grandmaster Jean? Naruto would say, a little shocked. No, not right now. Diluc would explain that this is actually just the normal Jean, not on her duties as the Grandmaster. This would be when Jean would say that she can't really do much right now in her current position, with the Fatui pressuring her as well as the Church and the Adventurers Guild to end this threat. She decided to help Diluc as well as the Traveler, along with this Bard, in order to try and save Dvalin in order to protect everyone. And so this would be when Diluc would reveal his plan, saying that he thinks that if the Fatui and the Abyss are working together in any way, then they're probably at a stronghold over here. Diluc would point out that he had actually interrogated an Abyss Mage earlier, and that their most recent stronghold was here, pointing to another spot on the map. For the last couple of months, they've been moving their bases clockwise, so it only makes sense logically that they'll be here, Diluc would say. Naruto would nod, thinking that makes sense, so let's go beat in there and smash them, Naruto would say. Diluc would sigh, saying, in simple terms, that is correct. With Naruto along with Jean, Diluc, Paimon, and Venti about to go off to reclaim the Lyre de Himmel. Anyway, if you guys want to see the next part for What If Naruto's in GenshinImpact, which will be covering the battle against Dvalin, along with now Venti and the Fray and the Knights of Favonius, make sure to hit the like button, comment down below what you thought, and subscribe to my channel for more videos from me. Anyway, if you have any comments or suggestions for videos, make sure to hit them down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.